Good morning. My name is Ellen Burge, and my pronouns are she, her. I am a member of your Ministerial Search Committee. If you are here for the first time, thank you for joining us. We look forward to getting to know you. We invite everyone present in the sanctuary today to join our in-person coffee hour immediately following the service. During our service, there is a time for sharing the joys and sorrows of our lives with one another. Cards for sharing your joy or sorrow are on the table by the entrance to the sanctuary. We ask that you pick them up and fill them out prior to that section of the service. Rooted in the values of Unitarian Universalism, we covenant to be a congregation where people of all generations find meaning and purpose. We work to be a congregation that champions justice by actively working to dismantle oppression, uplift marginalized voices, and build diverse multicultural communities of fairness and belonging. We are so glad that you are with us today, and we hope you find the service inspiring and meaningful.
Good morning. My name is James Altman. My pronouns are he, him, and it is an honor to serve our congregation today as worship associate. I lit chalice as the symbol of our faith as Unitarian Universalists, born in resistance, carried in courage, and still burning for justice today. I'd like to invite my mother-in-law, Michelle Browning, up to light our chalice. As we light our chalice in the sanctuary, I invite those on Zoom to light a chalice or candle and to type your location in the chat. Our chalice lighting and opening words today are by Nicole McKay. We gather to remember those who could not grow old and those forced to grow old long before their time. We gather to mourn and grieve with one another all of our losses, the people, the stories, the loved ones, and the futures that could have been. We gather to do the hard work of facing the difficult realities of our present and our past, where there is conflict, violence, war, and hatred. We gather to hold space for silence as we try to make meaning of our history, to help us work for peace and justice today. We gather to rekindle our source of hope for our future by recognizing in one another our shared humanity. As we join in a concerted commitment for a better tomorrow, we gather because we need community to do all of this holy work. Come, let us worship together.
Please rise in body or in spirit as we join together in singing hymn number 1000, Morning Has Come.
Dance
Would you please join now with me in saying our covenant, which is on the screen and in your bulletin? Love is the spirit of this church, and service is its law, to dwell together in peace, to seek the truth in love, and to help one another. This is our covenant. And now let us say our covenant is in Spanish. El amor es el espíritu de esta iglesia, y el servicio es su ley. Vivir juntos en paz, buscar la verdad en el amor, y ayudarnos unos a otros. Este es nuestro pacto. Please be seated. Our congregation is a lively community with many opportunities to participate. Here are a few announcements for you today, but please check your order of service for more. Kids, youth, parents, guardians, grandparents, and volunteers, please mark your calendars and remember to stick around June 1st for lunch in our annual Religious Education Feedback Meeting. This year, we've leaned into the spirit of play, and all of our activities will be through games and fun activities. There might even be some treats. We'll wrap up no later than 2 p.m.
Join the Taste of Theology group on Wednesday, May 28th at 6:30 p.m. for dinner and discussion at Chiang Mai Thai Noodle in Broad Ripple. Our topic this month is community. All are welcome and no reservations are needed. See Carla Cody for more information.
Mark your calendars for another delicious all-church pitch-in Sunday, June 8th, right after church. Bring a dish according to your last name. Last names A through I, bring a side. J through S, a dessert. And T through Z, a main. Remember that we need vegan, vegetarian, and gluten-free dishes as well. Please label your ingredients and bring your own table settings.
After the pitch-in on June 8th, be sure to join us for our next multi-gen book discussion. If you're curious about what can happen when you trap a tiger, that's the name of the book. See Carla Cody in the social hall after the service today to get a copy of the book.
UUI's Beacon Fund recently awarded a grant to the White Pine Wilderness Academy to make their programming to youth and adults more accessible. UUI members, families, and friends are invited to participate Saturday, May 31st from 10 a.m. to noon at White Pine for a plant and mushroom identification and river cleanup event. See Maria Renner or Dustin McCreary for more information.
Baby Harrison, the child of Lindy and Jordan, was born on May 12th, a bit earlier than expected. The meal train for this newly expanded family could use some help. Please see your e-blast for details. The information is under the minister section in your e-blast. That's better. Now let us enter into the time of the service when we share the joys and sorrows of our lives with one another so that they may be held in community. As the music plays in just a moment, I invite people in the sanctuary to come forward and drop a stone into the bowl. If something is on your heart today, you can use both sides of the table. And if you've written your joy or sorrow on a card, please leave it in the basket on the table, and I will read it out loud. Please note that the cards are able to be picked up by the entrance when you come in. For those of you who are on Zoom, we invite you to use the chat feature. Please put in all caps either joy or sorrow, plus your name and pronouns at the beginning of what you are sharing if you would like me to read it out loud in the sanctuary. You can also symbolically drop a stone into the bowl by typing drop stone or just DS into the chat. Let us share the joys and sorrows of our lives with one another. These are the joys and sorrows shared today. Don shares the joy of his oldest grandson's wedding. Lynn shares both a joy and a sorrow. Joy that she's visiting her son and his family, settling in here in Indiana. Sorrow for the trans community as the target of political injustice, trying to remove their rights. Alice shares both a joy and a sorrow as well, I think one that many of our younger people share. Alice says her last day of school was on Thursday, which is, I think, the joy part, and the sorrow is that she won't get to see her friends for a while. Teresa shares the joy, happy to be sharing this day with my grandson. We plan to garden and then swim. Though they may not be shared today, we know there are many more joys and sorrows in our hearts and on our minds. Let us take a moment to sit in the quiet together and just breathe and feel one another's presence as we hold all this together as community. Amen, and blessed be. I'd like to invite anyone who would like to do so to please come forward so that you can see the screen. We're going to have a video for our Words for All Ages today. And the video is the book, A Day for Remembering, written by Leah Henderson and illustrated by Floyd Cooper. So come on up if you want to see it a little bit better. This book was inspired by the true events of the very first Memorial Day. But before we dive into the story, I want to give just a little bit of background. In 1861, our country was torn apart by a civil war, with the northern states, called the Union, fighting the southern states, the Confederacy. The North wanted to keep the country intact, both North and South, and to ensure that all people were equal by abolishing slavery. But the South did not agree, and they sought to establish themselves as their own country, separate from the North, the Confederate States of America. They also sought to keep slavery. The war was fought for 4 years until 1865, when the Confederacy surrendered to the Union. The United States remained united, and slavery was abolished. Now, Memorial Day was originally called Decoration Day and was established to honor those who gave their lives while fighting in the Civil War. The holiday has since evolved to commemorate all American military personnel who have died in any and all wars. And we're going to talk later today about maybe expanding that a little bit further. Let's hear our story, our words for all ages.
A Day for Remembering, inspired by the true events of the first Memorial Day. Written by Leah Henderson. Illustrated by Coretta Scott King Award winner Floyd Cooper. 9 days in a row. Papa up early and gone again. I still can't go with him though. He said, Eli, school's where you need to be, reading and counting. But I am counting. Right here, day 9. Not following after Papa is harder than holding a hot potato in my hands. He said important work has to be done. Man's work. I rose on my toes, then pushing out my chin, stretching as tall as my 10-year-old self could. But it made no difference. I imagine him out there standing up to folks who spit in our faces, call us names, or try to run us out our home. Mad 'cause we aren't enslaved no more. Or I think of him putting out fires and keeping order with the 21st Colored Infantry, Union soldiers, brown like us, who marched up Meeting Street holding their heads high in victory, especially the ones who'd been enslaved here in Charleston. They were some of the first to come when the mayor surrendered the city to the Union. A, B, C, D, E. No use begging to follow Papa, though. Mama will only fuss. Eli, you now have the hard-earned right to learn, and it's what's gonna get you beyond. Masters locked away learning because knowledge is its own freedom. You're going to school, and no more words are getting spilt about it. Before the war, worry never let my insides alone. Always scared that Mama or Papa would get sold away, never to come back home. But today Papa comes home as night covers the sky, almost looking worse than after toiling in master's fields. But those days in the fields are over. Papa said, unlike some, we aren't going back because we aren't enslaved no more. We were digging and building and painting, he says after supper. Digging? Building? Painting? But Papa isn't giving no more answers. Papa looks tired, doesn't he? Wake up, Eli. Today you're coming with me. Day 10. I spring out of bed like beans in a skillet and jump into my breeches. Something important must be happening if Papa is letting me miss even 1 second of school, my hard-earned right. And Mama isn't putting up no fuss. With molasses smeared cornbread sliding down my throat, I race to catch Papa. His long strides are met by others as more men join us, their boots crunching against pebbles on the hard road. My new schooling helps me count 28 men in all. Shoulders back, chests out, they stomp along, ready to do the real important business Papa talks about. Business he thinks I'm old enough to do now too. You need to see the work we's doing before it's all done, he says. We strut through the entrance at the Planters Racecourse, where white folks used to watch mighty horses run before the war. But it isn't a racecourse no more. For a while, the Confederates made it a jail. Mama and ladies from church used to sneak food to the Union soldiers held prisoner there. Skinny and sickly, those men hardly had more clothes than the most lonesome slave. A newspaper man said those poor souls had no covering but the sky, and that they were heartsick, homesick, sick in body, sick in life. All because they fought against slavery and our God-given right to be free. So over the evening paper, Mama had learned to read in secret while enslaved. She promised, "We'll share every morsel we got till we got no more. But the living are gone now, and the dead lie by our feet." Without a word, Papa and the other men get to digging, hammering, and cutting wood. Papa points to the fence where some of my schoolmates have joined their papas to help with the whitewashing, Eli. I drag my feet, though, wanting to stay by Papa's side. But he rushes around doing more work in a minute than he'd done in 3 hours on Master's land. An old usher from our church pushes a painting brush in my hand, and I get to working too. As the sun beats our backs, the men sing in heavy, deep voices that rattle the dirt. Nobody knows the trouble I've seen. Nobody knows my sorrow. When the sun starts slipping behind the trees, they raise an arch. Tired pinches my shoulders and my palms ablaze, crisscrossed with tiny scrapes from a day's hard toil. But I don't pay the sting or ache no mind. We've done good work for the soldiers who lost their lives for our freedom. The next morning, before the rooster's first gawks, I leap up, but I'm not going to school again today. None of us colored children are. This day is that important. My best mended pants and cleanest shirt wait on my blanket. Mama gathers up her basket full of Mayflower bundles. Papa straightens his hat. And we leave our yard just as our neighbors leave theirs. Black faces, more than I've ever seen together, fill the streets with bouquets, crosses, and wreaths. I'm not sure a flower is left unpicked in Charleston. My schoolmates carry roses and hawthorns, but since I'm fastest at learning my numbers and letters, I get to carry the flag. Right out in front, I stomp, knees high like the important colored soldiers did up Meeting Street. Mama strides in her best calico dress behind us with the women, grinning, proud. I can't see Papa, but I know he is somewhere in the quilt of black, brown, and white faces. In lines stretching longer than a mile, we cross onto the old race course, singing with our fullest hearts. John Brown's body lies a-moldering in the grave, but his soul goes marching on. Although we sing about John Brown, we are really singing for all the buried Union soldiers. After the last word is sung, quiet comes. Our feet shushing across the sandy soil. We circle the fresh dirt mounds with sweet-smelling petals of rose, lilac, and jasmine swirling to the ground. Thousands of hands sprinkle thousands of spring blossoms. The graves become a bed of petals and tears. The flag flaps in the breeze when I hand it off, as if waving goodbye to the Union soldiers finally at peace. Pastors preach sacrifice, abolitionists proclaim freedom, and officers bay at us to remember. Even though we are sad, we are celebrating too. My heart rests easy now. Me, Mama, and Papa can't never be sold away no more. And I'm getting my schooling, its own freedom, like Mama said. so my insides feel all good. While breaking bread, we listen to more speeches about the martyrs of the racecourse and freedom. Blurry eyes praise a Union brigade marching round the pond of blossoms. There's lots of head nodding and as families gather round the grandstand, remembering, shedding tears, and giving thanks above. The flag never stops waving, but all my old slave time worry flies away. And as the moon joins in, we leave the racecourse with empty hands and near bursting hearts, hoping those Union soldiers, hugged by Charleston's sweetest blooms, know that we will never forget what they've given of themselves for the priceless gift of our liberty.
Thank you for sharing this Words for All Ages with me. And now it is time for our kids to go to religious education if they would like to do so. Let us sing. There's no RE today. Well, hey, you learn something new every day. I invite our kids to make themselves comfortable here in the sanctuary today. Hello. We are not going to be singing this song for all ages. If you guys would like to go sit down, feel free. All right. Thank you for that information. No, that's good. I would much rather know before they get out there and wonder, where are we supposed to go? Miscommunications happen sometimes. It's okay. Well, I love a good origin story. And the Marvel Cinematic Universe, the movies based on the Marvel comic books, also known as the MCU, has built an entire empire on origin stories. We are first usually introduced to a superhero after their powers have emerged. Iron Man already has his suit. Black Panther is already on the throne when we first meet him. Black Widow is at the top of her game. But then the story rewinds. We see what shaped them, what they lost, who they loved, what broke their hearts, what lies they believed. And once we know that, the rest of the story often changes. Take the story of Carol Danvers, also known as Captain Marvel. We get a glimpse of her in the movie Infinity War, all power and light arriving at a moment in crisis, and she is awesome. Not that I have an opinion. But in her origin story, which takes place several decades earlier, we learn she wasn't born with that power, and she didn't always know who she was, even. After surviving a crash and an experimental explosion, her DNA is altered, and the alien Kree take her in, erase her memory, and train her to be one of their elite soldiers. She thinks she's fighting for peace and order as a part of the Kree Star Force, but over time she uncovers a deeper truth. She has been manipulated. The Skrulls that she thought were her enemy are actually refugees. The Kree aren't peacekeepers, they're imperialists. And suddenly the lines between hero and villain blur. Carol realizes that she's been used, her memory has been manipulated, her power has been weaponized. She hasn't been fighting for justice, she's been upholding a system built on fear, domination, and control, and that's a shattering realization for her. But instead of retreating into denial or shame, she chooses to face the truth, and in doing so, she becomes something more than a soldier. She frees herself. She becomes free not because she is invisible, but because she refuses to keep living someone else's story. That is what makes her powerful. Not just her strength, but her willingness to question everything that she thought she knew and still keep fighting for what is right. Captain Marvel's origin story doesn't just explain her powers, it reshapes the moral landscape of the whole universe the MCU exists in. That's what origin stories can do. They don't just tell us where something began, they show us how to understand the story differently. And that power of seeing what lies beneath the surface doesn't just apply to superheroes, beloveds. It applies to our collective stories too. And that matters, especially today. Because this is Memorial Day weekend, a time full of ceremonies and symbols and deeply ingrained stories. And like so many things in our culture, the stories we've inherited about Memorial Day aren't quite the whole truth. So today, let's dig deeper into the origin of Memorial Day to bring to light a part of the story that has been forgotten, a part of the story that has been erased. Because when we tell the fuller story, especially the parts that have been buried, we don't just honor the past more honestly, we begin to imagine a future more worthy of those who sacrificed for it. So I don't know about you, but I definitely did not growing up the story we heard in our Words for All Ages. Did anybody grow up hearing that story as the Memorial Day story? Good, okay, if there was one hand, I would have been shocked. Now, while that origin story is contested, the events themselves did happen. The debate isn't whether or not they took place, but whether they count as the first Memorial Day. And honestly, just asking that question, does that count? That already tells us something, doesn't it? Because this story doesn't center generals or presidents. It doesn't take place at Arlington. It centers Black people, formerly enslaved people. And that makes it easier to forget or erase. So let me tell it again briefly. It's May 1st, 1865. The Civil War has just ended. Charleston, South Carolina, a city that has been a symbol of the Confederacy, is in ruins. But something extraordinary is happening at the site of an old horse race track that had been converted into a Confederate prison camp during the war. More than 250 Union soldiers had died there, and they had been buried in a mass grave without markers, without names, without dignity. And so, a group of Black Charlestonians, recently freed, took it upon themselves to honor the dead. They dug up the mass grave and reburied the soldiers properly. They built a fence around the new cemetery and erected an archway over the entrance that read, "Martyrs of the Race Course." And then on May 1st, they held a procession. 10,000 people marched. 2,000 Black school children led the way, singing and carrying flowers. They were followed by Black Union soldiers, white missionaries, teachers, and ministers. They sang spirituals. They read scripture. They brought armfuls of roses to the graves. They made space for grief and for reverence. They remembered, not with flags and fireworks, but with speeches from the powerful, but with care and defiance and love. Many historians now believe this was the first Memorial Day. It wasn't a national holiday, it wasn't a long weekend yet, and it wasn't about retail sales or the Indy 500. Which starts soon. I'm so glad to see you all here. It was about a community newly free, honoring those who had died to help make that freedom possible. It was remembrance as resistance. It was memory as liberation. And the fact that this story is still largely unknown, I don't believe for a second that that's an accident. That cemetery no longer exists in Charleston. The site is now a park honoring Confederate General Wade Hampton, a man who himself owned 3,000 slaves. This story was erased. Because if we told this version of Memorial Day, if we rooted it in the story of Black resistance, of grassroots justice, of truth-telling in the face of empire, it might maybe just change what we think this day is for, right? Much like the erasure of Black Lives Matter Plaza in Washington, D.C. asks us to forget about the racial uprisings around the murders of George Floyd and Breonna Taylor. Remembering might call us to resist the forces of empire. So what do we do with this first story of Memorial Day? What does it mean to carry that kind of memory forward, especially here today? I think it starts with expanding our understanding of who we remember. Memorial Day is often framed as a time to honor soldiers who died in battle, and we should honor them. People have joined the military for all kinds of reasons, some out of economic necessity, others out of a sense of duty or a desire to protect the vulnerable. 3 out of 4 of my own grandparents served. They believed in the promise of this country. They risked their lives defending what they thought that it stood for. And that is to be honored and to be remembered. And yet I can't help but think what they would think right now. I can't help but wonder what they would think right now. The country they defended, the values they believed they were upholding seem so far away today. They fought for a country they believed in, not just the land or the people, but the ideals of peace, liberty, and justice for all. And those ideals have been carried forward by people in many kinds of uniforms and by people with no uniform at all. So today, as we remember those who died in military service, let us also widen the frame. Because the fight for freedom, for peace, liberty, and justice for all doesn't always wear camouflage or come with medals. It shows up in other places too, places just as dangerous and just as courageous. Sometimes it happens in the streets, in courtrooms, on bridges. The fight for justice shows up in voting booths, in pulpits, and in newspapers, and in schools, in places where the stakes are just as high and the risks are just as real. Let's honor the people who died not for conquest, but for justice, who gave their lives not to dominate, but to liberate. Let's honor folks like Alice Kosu. Alice was one of the women arrested during the 1917 Night of Terror, when suffragists were imprisoned and brutally beaten at the Occoquan workhouse simply for peacefully picketing the White House. Let's honor Medgar Evers, a World War II veteran and civil rights activist, assassinated in his driveway for fighting segregation in Mississippi. Let's honor the Reverend James Reeb, a Unitarian Universalist minister who answered the call to march in Selma and was beaten to death by white supremacists, and Viola Liuzzo, a UU woman and mother of 5 who drove from Michigan to Alabama to help with the Selma March and was murdered by the KKK. Let's remember Harvey Milk, the first openly gay elected official in California, assassinated for standing up for the dignity of LGBTQ+ people less than a year after taking office. Let's honor Heather Heyer, a young paralegal and activist who was killed in 2017 when a white supremacist drove a car into a crowd of protesters in Charlottesville, Virginia. She was there to resist hatred, racism, and rising fascism. Let's remember Wynne Bruce, the climate activist and Buddhist who self-immolated on the steps of the Supreme Court on Earth Day in 2022 in protest of climate inaction. And Aaron Bushnell, the active duty Air Force member who set himself on fire outside the Israeli embassy in Washington, D.C. last year, saying he would not be complicit in what he believed was genocide. The list could go on. So many names. So many lives. Not all of them lost on a battlefield, but all of them lost in a fight to create something better. These are people who stood on the front lines of justice. People who risked and gave everything to bend the moral arc of the universe towards something freer, something more fair, something more whole. They didn't die to conquer, they died to liberate, and we owe them more than silence or sentiment. We owe them remembrance. And I believe we owe them action. But action grounded in what? In rage? In grief? In guilt? No, beloveds. The kind of action they deserve is action rooted in imagination, in courage, in a vision bigger than any one of us. Because remembering is never just about the past, it's also about the future that we are shaping in its wake. And what kind of future are we shaping? What kind of world are we trying to build in their honor on these memories? Later in this service, we'll sing a hymn, a song, "We'll Build a Land." Now, if you've sung it before, you know it's rousing, it's stirring. It's also a little uncomfortable. At least it has been for me. There was a time when I loved it, when it felt like a bold call to justice, but after the United States invaded Iraq in 2003, I started hearing something different in it, something unsettling. Words like build a land, anointed by God, raising up ruins. It started to sound like a hymn of conquest, like a holy mission to impose our values, our mission on someone else's land, someone else's people. But when I learned where the song actually comes from, everything shifted again because, origin stories. It turns out "We'll Build the Land" was written by a peace activist, Barbara Zanotti. She adapted the lyrics from the Hebrew prophets, Isaiah, Amos, those fierce voices of justice crying out from the margins. And the final line of the song, "Let justice roll down like waters and peace like an ever-flowing stream." That references a verse that the Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. invoked in his calls for justice. The hymn isn't about empire. It's about vision. It's not a call to conquer, but to co-create, if we choose to sing it that way. So today, when we sing it, I invite you, let's not picture soldiers marching or cities rising or imperialism. Let's picture something that may be harder to picture, something beautiful. Let's picture neighbors showing up when disaster strikes, or protesters linking arms, or parents showing up for school board meetings to protect trans kids. Let's picture volunteers delivering food, medicine, helping people cross state lines. People refusing to let the powerful write the final story. Let's build a land where we are the ones raising up what's been torn down. Not with bulldozers, but with compassion, with truth, with the courage of conviction. Because that land, that beloved community, isn't a place we invade. It's a place that we grow. This Memorial Day weekend, I invite us to remember, not the way we were taught to, not with passive nostalgia or patriotic polish. Let us remember by piecing the story back together, by holding the complexity, by honoring not just the fallen soldiers in uniform, but also the ones who marched, who preached, who resisted, who refused to let their lives be written by empire. May we take up the sacred work of memory, not to glorify the past, but to nurture our future. May we build a land not of conquest, but of courage, a land rooted in justice, watered by memory, and tended by love. May it be so. May we, together, make it so.
Here's to the ones that we got. Cheers to the ones which were here and they're not, but our dreams are based on the memories of everything we've been through. Toast to the love here today. Toast to the loves that we've lost on the way, but our dreams are based on the memories. And memories bring back you. There's a time that I remember when I did not know no pain, when I believed in forever and everything would stay the same. Now my heart feels like December when somebody says your name, 'cause I can't reach out and call you, but we'll meet again one day. Oh yeah. Everybody hurts sometimes, but everybody helps some days. But everything gonna be alright. Or raise a glass and say, hey, here's to the ones that we got. Cheers to the ones which were here and they're not, but our dreams are based on the memories of everything we've been through. Toast to the love here today, whoa. Toast to the loves that we've lost on the way, but our dreams are based on the memories. And memories bring back you. Do 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 do. Memories bring back you. There's a time that I remember when I never felt so lost, when I felt all of the hatred was too powerful to stop. Oh yeah, now your memory's an ember and it's lighting up the dark. We'll carry torches onward for you that you know will never drop. No, no. Everybody hurts sometimes, but everybody helps some days. Hey, hey. But everything gonna be alright. Or raise a glass and say, hey, here's to the ones that we got. Cheers to the ones which were here and they're not, but our dreams are based on the memories of everything we've been through. Toast to the love here today, whoa. Toast to the loves that we've lost on the way, but our dreams are based on the memories. And memories bring back you. Do 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 do. Memories bring back you. Do 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 do. Memories bring back you.
Every month, UUI has the pleasure of sharing half of the Sunday collection with a cause chosen by our Social Justice Committee. For May's Share the Plate offering, we're supporting Food Not Bombs Indianapolis, a local organization dedicated to addressing hunger, homelessness, and poverty. Through their volunteer-driven efforts, they provide free meals and groceries to those in need. Their mission is to inspire community participation in solving societal issues like hunger, homelessness, and war, while promoting peace and environmental sustainability. To learn more, or to get involved, visit their Facebook group, Food Not Bombs Indianapolis. To give using your smartphone, text the dollar amount and the word SHARE to the phone number in the chat and bulletin, or visit UUI.org. Here in the sanctuary, ushers will come around to collect donations. The offering will now be gratefully received. May it be joyfully given. Thank you all for your generosity. Our closing words today are from Kathleen McTeague. In the struggles we choose for ourselves and the ways we move forward in our lives and bring our world forward with us, it is right to remember those who gave us strength in this choice of living. It is right to name the power of hard lives well lived. We share a history with those lives. We belong to the same motion. They too were strengthened by what had gone before. They too were drawn on by the vision of what might come to be. Those who lived before us, who struggled for justice and suffered injustice before us, have not melted into the dust and have not disappeared. They are with us still. The lives they lived hold us steady. Their words remind us and call us back to ourselves. Their courage and love evoke our own. We, the living, carry them with us. We are their voices, their hands, and their hearts. We take them with us, and with them choose the deeper path of living.
Please rise in body or in spirit as we join together in singing hymn number 121, We'll Build a Land.
More
Please join me in our chalice extinguishing words on the screen and printed in your order of service. Now we extinguish the flame of our chalice, but not the light of understanding, the warmth of compassion, or the fire of commitment. Let us keep those with us until we meet again. Go in peace.